Well, if you've been a buyer in the San Diego real estate market recently, you know it's been a little bit hectic. So, what are you going to do? What are some top tips for how to buy real estate in San Diego? I've got Vinnie Enriquez here from KW. What's up, brother?
How's it going, man?
Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in. All right, so let's talk top tips for buyers. You know, I can speak
Yeah.
to this as well. That's my focus too. Where do you begin? You know, for like, what's the tip number one if you're looking to buy a home? What is it?
Well, knowledge is power. Okay, I don't know. There's 3 mics here. You're not really sure to focus on. Focus over here. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're going to go there. Perfect. All right. So, knowledge is power. There's so much knowledge out there. If you were talking or you're watching this video, let's say in 2022, information is going to be a little different. But we're right now, end of 2021. Things are kind of slowing down to where they sat. We're at about 2,800 properties in San Diego County right now, compared to about 3 months ago when we were about 2,000, and about 3 weeks ago when we were at 3,000. So mind you, we jumped up quite drastically. So based off of where you currently are, some of the tips that we're talking right now might change a little bit, but knowledge is power, and the right knowledge is even greater power.
Some tips are timely.
Yes.
There's timely tips. And then there's evergreen tips. These are things that are simple, like everyone should know, like get pre-approved first kind of thing, you know?
Yes.
I mean, that's always like my number one tip is like, listen, figure out where you stand, you know, see where you're at. A lot of times people are surprised. Sometimes people are surprised, wow, I can get that big of a loan? Yeah, you could. You don't have to. You don't have to. But there's your max. And some people think they can buy something, and it turns out they can't. They may feel comfortable. They may have a side income or some cash coming in they're factoring into their budget, but we can't factor into the loan budget. So I always tell people like pre-approval is definitely tip number one. And is it still the case that you need a pre-approval to see a listing?
Not all the time, but if you're working with probably the right realtor and they're not asking you about a pre-approval before they maybe take you to one property, okay? But if they're taking you to more properties without a pre-approval, they're doing you a disservice, right? Because property are still selling fast. If you look at days on market, we're still sitting about 7 days on at the medium, right? So
Which is crazy.
Yeah, crazy, right? So you're talking about if you're looking at a property today, and the pre-approval process, it varies from lender to lender, right? Because the way it goes, you're talking to the originator, right? Then you're talking to the originator, and the originator is basically getting all the information from you, and they're giving that to the underwriter, and the underwriter gives the final say, right? That process, lender to lender, I know when you're dealing with Derrick, right, it can take only a couple of hours, right?
Yeah, sure.
But when you're dealing with other lenders, it might take 24 to 48 hours, even longer than that. So let's say you fell in love with that property right there, you saw it on day 3, and now you're not pre-approved until day 6, and they already have multiple offers, and you lost out on the dream property.
Yeah, happens all the time.
Yeah, so talking to your lender, getting the information, and also finding out what your comfortability level is, right? Properties are bought off emotions, right? You can walk into a property, and let's say you feel comfortable at a payment of $3,800, but you walk into this property and you go, oh my gosh, this is the property for me, right? Because that's 95% of buyers.
Yeah.
They fall in love with that property in the first 10 seconds of walking into the property.
Yep, it's true.
Right? And so you walk into the property, you go, oh my gosh, this is the property for me. Okay, I want to buy this. And you talk to Derrick and goes, hey, I got you a really low rate. I got you a really low rate, but that's going to be $4,200. Oh, well, I was thinking $3,800, $400 more a month. That's not too bad. I could make that work. But is it really comfortable in your pocket?
Yeah. Well, I think to sort of piggyback on that is a lot of times when I talk to people, I ask them, what's your ideal monthly budget? They don't know yet.
Yeah.
They haven't really discussed it. They haven't thought about it. And so I'll help them walk through that process. Okay, well, how much are you paying right now?
Yeah.
Would you be comfortable paying more than that? What is your comfort level? And so sometimes people need to actually go through an exercise of figuring out what that number is. Sometimes people know, oh, I want it to be $2,500 less. Yeah. I want to stay at 3,000 is my number. Recently I had buyers who are actually in escrow now that say we don't want to go over 3,200. Or my VA buyers will say, I want my BAH only.
Yeah.
That's what I want to spend, maybe $100 more.
Yeah.
And the reason why that's important, team, is because it's not just that that's where you'll end up, but that's where you need to be looking. You need to be looking in the realm of what you're comfortable with financially, because it may be the case that you get into a bidding war. It may be the case that you have to go a little bit higher, and then you end up paying $100 or $200 a month more. But if that's all it is, you could probably figure that out, right?
And if you're a year out, if you're 6 months out, if you're 2 years out, right, from buying, it's never too early to start. If you're thinking that you're your monthly payment is comfortable at 3,600, whatever the number is, right? But you're paying right now 2,800. Perfect. Well, let's say you're paying 2,600, 3,800 is where you want to be at. They got $1,200 cushion right there.
Yeah.
Put that in your savings every month.
Yep.
See what it feels like in your pocketbook. Now you're saving for your down payment. You're good to go, and you can actually see, okay, I'm really comfortable with this, or maybe.
You actually nailed one of my tips right there.
All right.
One of my tips is if you're renting is to make sure you're saving money every month, because you can justify your renting better that way. If you're saving money every month, then you're putting money towards the future equity in your home. That's future principal you're going to be paying down with your down payment. That money is actually going into your home. So you're actually applying towards home ownership, even though you're still renting. So as long as you can do that, unfortunately, a lot of people rent sort of at the top of their budget range.
Yeah.
And so they're not able to do that. That's a mistake. So that's one of my top tips. If you're renting, is put yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
That'll set you up for success. And we don't know what's going to happen with prices, but it sure looks like everything's going to keep going up. It looks like rent's going to keep going up for years to come. Prices of real estate is probably going to keep going up. So we have to sort of factor that in now too. We got to really think about that.
Well,
timing.
Yeah. So something to think about, right? The median home price has actually trickled down a tad bit.
Has it?
Okay, in the last month, it's trickled down a tad bit. Now, mind you, that was due to the jump in inventory. Now, mind you, the jump of inventory, we're talking about still like a month worth of inventory. When a balanced market, we're talking about 6 months, right? So we're currently at about, again, 2,800, right? Roughly 2,800 properties in the market. And we had about 2 years ago, 7,000 properties, right?
Wow.
So we're roughly 7,000. So we're talking about, we jumped down from 7,000 to 2,000, right? And now we're at 2,700, 2,800 roughly, right? So inventory has short of inventory has been one of the driving factors in this market.
Right.
And I remember it, and 2 years ago when we were at 7,000 properties, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, we don't have any inventory."
I know.
Right? And so now we're in this market right now. So we're slowly starting to see the market slowing down. Yet, because we're seeing less and less inventory hit the market on a weekly basis more recently, we might have a little bit more of a jump. But my opinion is, I think once we start seeing the effects of COVID, we're going to see more of a stagnant market for a little bit of time, and it won't be as drastic as it was. Yet, if we start seeing that jump down to the 2,700, 2,800, back down to 2,000, now we're going to see people going those bidding wars where now you're getting 124% of list of sold. Yeah, right. So that brings me to that next point, right? Understanding the micro markets, right? If we're looking at list of sold in San Diego County, we're sitting right now at roughly about 103%. We were at about 105 in June, July. Yet, the one market that only touched 100% in the last 3 years was the only one that I at least know that I looked into, the downtown market. So right now at the median, the list of sold, right, has actually gone under 100.
In downtown. Interesting.
For the median, not the average. There's a difference between average and median, right? But so you're talking about right now, that's the one market that I'm at least aware of. And there's probably other markets out there that is list of sold is under 100.
Well, I haven't seen one. I'm thinking about the clients that I know who bought homes. Just everyone right now who's in contract. I don't have anyone who's under list. No, that's wrong. I have one that's under list, but we still had multiple offer situations on each one. It hasn't been one yet where it's like, hey, we're the only offer.
Yeah.
And I could tell because they're like really working with us, hard from the very beginning. Like, there's none of that I've seen. Yeah. But it probably is happening somewhere out there, but I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
So for me, so there's still offers. The last guy who did a cross qual, I really thought we were going to get that property, and he did a cross qual, and the agent called me and all this stuff, and he said, I have 7 offers.
Yeah.
And this was a townhome with, it's a nice one, 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhome under $500K, so pretty good for San Diego County, right?
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't go with us ultimately. But he said, okay, we have 7 offers, and he was vetting them very thoroughly. And I thought, wow, this guy's doing a good job as a listing agent, really vetting these offers that he's got. Yeah. It's harder to do that when you have 30 offers.
Oh yeah.
It's a little more Wild West, right? I mean, you're trying to go, all right, well, let's pick 4 or 5 that will counter, or maybe 3.
Yeah.
We can't counter everybody. We just can't.
Yeah.
So it's a lot harder. The market is doing the sift for you in that situation where you only have 5, 6 offers. I say only 5 or 6 offers. But it's nice to have multiple looks. It's good for sellers. It's good for buyers to also be in somewhat of a competitive position because the lowball offer guy doesn't win in this market.
Well, okay, this is where I push back a tad bit.
Okay.
It's good for the sellers if the sellers have a reputable listing agent.
True.
Now, in a market where you're talking about that you can get 30 offers, I mean, maybe now it's 10 offers, right? 8 offers right there. It allows more flexibility for a dishonest agent to double end the deal and put less money in your pocket.
I see what you're saying.
Right? I mean, so because that happens on a daily basis. You have to think that the average agent in San Diego County is selling about 3 deals a year, right? So if you're not on top of them or you at least didn't vet that person you're working with, there is that flexibility, that ability for them to take a lesser offer, less money in your pocket, right? There's a difference between lesser offer and less money in your pocket, but
yeah, a worse offer, let's call it.
A worse offer.
Would you advise sellers to not allow their listing agent to represent a buyer on their property?
For myself, I've done over 200 and some transactions, and I've only done it once where I did both sides. The other times where we've done it where we had our team do another side of it, I basically look at it that I'm working the listing side, right? And my team member is working that buyer that we got. And they're doing their best due diligence for that buyer. I'm doing my best for the seller, because at least that time it's hard. And when I tried it to do both sides of it myself personally, you're trying to do best by both individuals, yet how can you really fight for your client if you're fighting for both? It almost seems like an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a conflict.
It's conflict. It's a very huge conflict.
It's a direct conflict of interest.
Yeah.
But, it's also like, some people say, well, in divorce they have mediation.
Yeah.
And mediation works out really well.
Yeah.
Because you kind of get everyone together and the person in the middle knows where both people are really at and says, okay, I can tell where this is going to go.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and go there.
Yeah.
Let's not mess around and do all this back and forth. I know where you're at. I know where you're at. Here's the middle. Let's get there.
But I think in mediation, in that sense, right, you have an idea of what's possible, right? You have an idea of the assets that are available. You have the idea of whatever it might be, right? In real estate, right, if this is your first time selling a property, you're not aware, for the most part, right, clients, if they don't ask the right questions, they don't know what contingencies are.
Yeah.
They don't know what the earnest money deposit is.
True.
They don't know the strength of the offer. They don't know if the buyer is contingent on the sale of their property.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't even know that, like, hey, were all the offers given to me?
Yeah.
There has been some crazy situations where you get an offer and for a fact that listing agent had never shown your offer to the seller, right? So it's I think at least in mediation there's a back history from the buyer. From not the buyer, but the husband and wife or the partners, right? So they at least have some kind of understanding. They might hate each other, but they at least have some understanding of what the other person is bringing to the table or has the ability to bring to the table.
Yeah.
And so now they're coming with some education. In a situation like this, you're, as a seller and the buyer, you're not talking to each other, so you have no past history with that individual.
True.
And so you don't have any kind of.
But ideally, the agent would, or the mediator in that situation.
If you fully trust that mediator.
Yeah, which you have to. That's the thing. It's like, who was I talking to this about the other day? I can't remember what it was, but anyway, it's like there's certain things that when you do it, you have to trust. Or don't do it. Like if I can't trust you wholly, if I don't feel like, okay, hey, we trust Vinnie, we're giving him the house, he's going to sell it. If you can't do that, then you shouldn't sell your house. Or you have to find someone until you feel like, you know what, I trust you, I'm going to listen to you. Because the biggest problem is that we have trained, solid professionals who give people solid advice. For whatever reason, when someone is in a doubting nature, they will always doubt the person who's telling them the truth and believe the person who's lying to them. I don't know why that is. It's this weird phenomenon. I don't know what the psychological implications are with that, but that's how it is. So unfortunately, people will then not trust you. They say, well, I don't believe him. He's telling me we can't get this much for the house most likely, but he's going to try.
Yeah.
This guy says 100% for sure is going to get us way more than that. So let's go with him. Now, you just took someone who's being honest with you, shut him down, and someone who's just kind of going, oh, give me the listing, and you're going with that person.
Well, I think it comes to whoever speaks the loudest. I mean, I could say, hey, the sky is orange outside until I'm blue in the face. And if I say it with enough confidence and you have a slight level of doubt in your head, I'm going to win the conversation. You're going to be like, oh, well, shit, maybe it is orange. I haven't been out there for
sunset.
What's going on? Yeah. So, I mean, there is that. But a joke, I mean, maybe not a funny joke. A joke that I used to say back in the day is that people would do more research on the phone they're going to buy than the realtor they're going to use.
That's true. It's probably true.
You know, and I stopped saying it because I was like, I felt every time I say it, I felt bad because I'm like I can say it until I'm blue in the face, but it hasn't changed anything.
Yeah.
People are still just like, oh, well, you know what? My cousin just got his realtor license. I'm probably just gonna use him. Or you know what? I just met this guy. He's my barista at this at the Starbucks, but he has his real estate license and he seems like a nice guy. Okay, I'm gonna use him. I mean, but haven't checked to see how positive or negative. And then the other thing too is when you do have a negative experience, put the review down for that person.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because most people, they're just like, oh my gosh, I'm just done with this scenario. I'm just done with the situation. I sold my property or I bought a property, but it was a horrible experience. And you know what? I'm just done with it. I'm not going to post anything. I'm not going to put a review out there.
You're right.
It's
That's
done.
an issue with everything, actually. Is that more people are willing to write a positive review than a negative review. But there are people who write negative reviews. I've written them.
Yeah.
But there's been plenty of times where I'm like, oh, I want to write a scathing review, but I'm just over it. I want to move on. So you're right about that. Let's talk about research, too, for as far as tips for buyers are concerned. You were talking to me about researching schools, crime, bunch of stuff.
There's so many programs out there. Like there's programs out there on the lending side that I mean I'm not aware of. And I mean I know Derrick's up to date on stuff. There's probably stuff that's like brand new that he might not be aware of, and that might be some negative talk right there. Hopefully, fisticuffs. But
I always have to do new research with new buyers, because you never know.
Yeah, you know, so researching the community, right? There's greatschools.org is a great platform. Crime Spot or spotcrime.org is another platform right there. And so finding these different platforms and seeing what the crime rate is in that platform, how are the schools in that platform by a third-party company. I mean, I mind you, if you do look at spotcrime.org in the community you're looking in, first look in the community you currently live in, because any area you live in, there's probably going to be something that's going on. So at least you kind of have a reference point of what's going on.
Good point.
But also, asking your lender that you decide to work with, that you trust, right? What's possible? There's a program for a first-time African American grant program that I was not aware of.
Yep, there is.
And now I have one client that's under contract on that right now.
Really, they got it?
Yeah, they got it. And I have
Nice.
another client that we put offers in, they're approved at it, and we should be getting under contract in the next day or two.
That's
But it was
awesome.
something I was not aware about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I had to do so much research because someone told me about it. And I was just like, it came.
It just happened.
And it's going to be gone probably really quick too.
I think that they said it's going to help 35 families.
Yeah.
Because it's a few $1 million,
Yeah.
which is great. But, you know, as far as helping down payment assistance and stuff, but it's only going to help so many. But 35 families is great.
Yeah. I mean, so it's something that I wasn't aware of. I talked to other lenders. I mean, they weren't aware of, and it was just because it happened so quick. So, I mean, be okay with having your trusted resource, right, to ask the questions. I mean, I've had clients on the buy side that sometimes they feel like, is it okay if I ask you this, or can I go, please?
Yeah.
I mean, please. I walk you through the process before, during our consultation, and after we decide to work together, you know what I mean? But a lot of that information is going to go in one ear and out the other.
Sure.
So you're going to forget it, but feel free to ask. I mean, it takes a second, a moment to ask myself or Derrick or whoever you're working with that question, compared to you going online, Googling that question, and then getting 5 different answers.
Bad answer.
Or bad answer.
And, you know, and bless your heart for everyone who, you know, says, hey, I don't want to bother you, but I have a bunch of questions. It's not a bother. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So bring your questions. Type them in the chat. Call, text us, email us. We are here to help, and we know that buying is not easy in this market right now. It hasn't been easy in San Diego for a long time. It's getting more difficult. You need good representation. we are here to help. Vinnie, thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank
man,
you.
sharing
Appreciate
your
it,
knowledge.
man.
Really appreciate your time. Hey, share this video with your friends. Let's help make them smarter than everyone else when it comes to buying real estate in San Diego.